Good evening, everyone. Here's the operations update from March 25th. Obviously, I talked in my previous video about the pivot Russia's having, where the Russian general staff is attempting to adjust the war's narrative so as to make it appear that Russia is achieving its aims and choosing to restrict operations when, in fact, it is not achieving its objectives and is being forced to abandon large-scale offensive operations because of its own failures and combat losses, as well as the continued very skillful Ukrainian resistance. So the Ukrainian defense forces and many defensive forces around the world are assessing that Russians do not have the combat power to hold all of the territory they currently occupy, much less advance on all fronts. So they are increasingly moving into a defensive posture. This is especially true around Kyiv, where Russian forces are preparing defensive lines to the northwest of Kyiv along these areas right here. That's why there's very defined lines here. Ukrainians have taken some of the suburbs, and that's what these blue areas here and right here and right here indicate the counterattacks by the Ukrainians. But it seems like a protracted defensive war is being fought over here so that it can pin Ukrainian forces near Kyiv to allow Russians to focus on eastern Ukraine, where the Donbass is, and where they want to try and take those regions more permanently. In eastern Kyiv, Russian attacks on Brovary were repulsed, and also Russian attacks in Chernihiv were repulsed as well. And then reportedly, Ukrainian forces have retaken some of the cities in the area as well, and created an additional 10-kilometer buffer from these cities so that they can continue to get some room to breathe and conduct counteroffensives. In eastern Ukraine, not a lot of fighting taking place, as there seems to be some reconciliation taking place by the Russians yet again as they pivot their goals. But the Ukrainians are currently fighting in a town called Izium, and the fighting continues, but they seem to be making progress. In the Donbass, there's two towns, Rubizne and Popasna, and I'm butchering these, sorry. Those both remain contested. Outside of Mariupol, the Russians are continuing to move street by street and have entered the city center. I talked about this yesterday. It seems like this eventually will fall to Russian hands just because there's just an overwhelming force around there. Kherson is looking more and more like it could be contested, but the locals are saying the Russians still have firm control over it, but there continues to be counteroffensives. Mykolaiv and Odessa had very little attacks around them in the last 24 hours. So that's where we're at.